Hey everybody, in this video what we're going to be doing is talking about how to deploy an application that we've created using Create React App so that it can be live on the internet. So what we're going to be using to accomplish this is Heroku, which is a free hosting service that we can use to get our applications up and running fairly easily. Now this app right here that we're going to deploy is a front-end template that is going to be used in the upcoming Node.js with Express backend tutorials. So if you plan on following along with those, I just recommend you clone this repository and then you remove the existing Git file by running the command rm-rf.git, and then you could create your own local GitHub repository and remote repository to basically use this template moving forward. Or if your only goal is to learn how to get a Create React application up on the internet using Heroku, feel free to stick around as well because this video should help you out with that. Alright, so before we start getting down and dirty with all of the terminal commands that we have to do, we have a couple of prerequisites that we need to make sure that we have. First, we're going to need to make sure that we have the Git command line tools installed on our local computer. And this is because the Heroku commands that we will be using to deploy our application are basically going to be additions to the Git command line tools that we've already been using. So if you don't have the Git command line tools, feel free to check out some of the previous tutorials on getting set up with Git. Okay, but what I can do is just type git -- version, and I should see that I have version 2.21.0, which means that I have Git installed on my local machine. The second thing that we're going to need to do is install the Heroku command line tools, which, as I mentioned earlier, are basically additions that will build on top of the current Git command line tools that we're already using. So you can find the Heroku command line interface tools by doing a quick Google search for Heroku CLI, stands for command line interface, and then that would basically bring you to this page right here, and you would just follow along with the instructions for installing it onto your local computer. Alright, so nothing too crazy, just adding these tools to your local machine, and then you'll be ready for the next step. The last thing you'll need to do is make a free account with Heroku. So if you just do a Google search for Heroku sign up, you'll go ahead and find this link. It may or may not look different, but it shouldn't be too difficult to sign up. All you have to do is just fill out the form, put in your information, and then you'll be ready to deploy your application to Heroku for the world to see. Alright, so at this point you should have your Heroku account created and you should have the Heroku command line interface tools installed on your local computer. We can quickly test that the command line interface tools were installed by running the command Heroku -- version. And we can see that something shows up here saying the version of Heroku that we have. If you don't see some type of version showing up, that means that something may have been wrong. So you could either restart your terminal, open up a new one, or debug whatever went wrong in the installation process. Alright, so it's time to deploy this bad boy. So the first thing that we're going to have to do is come into the command line interface, and what we're going to do is we're going to type the command Heroku. Let me make this a little bit bigger so everybody can see. We're going to type the command Heroku login. Okay, and we'll go ahead and press enter, and then you'll get a little text saying press any key to open up the browser. So I'll just go ahead and press a random key, and what that will do is open up your browser and it'll prompt you to log into Heroku using your browser. Okay, so you'll just go ahead and follow the steps there. Okay, and then once you made it through that prompt right there, it will tell you who you are logged in as, probably whatever account you signed into within the browser. And then whenever that's done, all you're going to want to do is come and log into Heroku and come to your dashboard. And what we'll go ahead and do is click on this button right here that says Create New App. Okay, so that should bring you to a screen that prompts you to input an application name. Don't worry too much about the name that you're putting here right now. You can always change the domain name later to anything that you want. So I think I'm just going to call this front end crud template brute force academy. Okay, and it looks like that name is available. So I'll just go ahead and click on create app. Okay, so this next page that we get brought to has a list of instructions that we can follow along with in order to deploy our application. But some of these things we've already done. Okay, so you can see that it prompts us to use the command line interface to log in, which we already did in our terminal by typing Heroku login. And then after that, it prompts you to create a local Git repository. So if you haven't done this already, you can go ahead and follow along with these steps right here. But for me personally, I've already created a local Git repository. So I'll go ahead and skip the steps that they provide for creating the initial Git repository. So the one command that I want you to focus on is this command right here, which says Heroku git remote -a, and then it says the name of my application. Yours will most likely be different. It'll say whatever the name of your application is. So what this command does is it basically creates a remote repository that your Create React App application will live and be deployed from. And this remote repository is going to be separate from the remote GitHub repository that you may already have. So what I'll go ahead and do is I'll just copy this command right here, and I'll go ahead and paste that into my terminal. Okay, and it looks like I forgot the H right there, so I'll just go ahead and type in Heroku. And okay, it says set git remote to Heroku, and then the name of wherever our Heroku remote repository is. So what we can do is we can just test out that this worked by typing git remote. And you can see here, I mentioned that I already had a remote Git repository. That is the origin right there. And the one that we just added is Heroku. Okay, so origin is my remote Git repository, and then Heroku is the remote Git repository that our application will be deployed from. So before we go on to the next step, which says git push Heroku master, what we're going to do first is add a Heroku build pack to assist with our deployment. So if you just do a quick search for Heroku Buildpacks, the Heroku website has some documentation about what they are and how they work, but in layman's terms, they are basically a set of scripts that will perform a bunch of deployment-related tasks like gathering dependencies, bundling together our code, and compiling it in a way that the Heroku server can understand whenever we upload it. So a very common build pack that we can use for Create React App is this Mars Create React App build pack. So if you just do a Google search for Heroku Create React App build pack, you'll find a GitHub page that you can click on here, which will basically walk you through the steps and explain to you what everything is here. And like I said, this is a pretty common one that you will use, and it has some pretty well written documentation for any configuration that we can and will probably need in the future. Okay, but for now, all we really need to do is apply this build pack to our Heroku configuration. So what we can do is if we scroll down here, it looks like under troubleshooting, you can see that you can confirm which build pack your app is using by typing Heroku Buildpacks. So if we just go ahead and type that command, Heroku Buildpacks. It says front-end CRUD template BFA has no Buildpack URL set. So if we don't have one, that means we have to add one. So all we have to do is copy this command right here that says Heroku Buildpacks set Mars/create React app. Okay, so we'll go ahead and paste that in there. You can see it says Heroku Buildpacks set. We're setting the build pack that will help us with our deployment. And the one we want to use is Mars/create React app. We'll go ahead and press enter. And it basically says, go ahead and push your code up to start using this build pack. And we can test it one more time. If I just type up on the keyboard, I can see that command that we ran was Heroku Buildpacks. If I hit enter, now I can see that my front-end CRUD template is using the Mars Create React App build pack. Okay, so we're pretty much good to go here. At this point, you're going to want to go ahead and clean up your code, stage your changes, make any commits that you need to make, because we are about to upload our code onto the interwebs. Okay, so let's see how we can put the final nail in this deployment coffin with the last step right here. All right, so the final thing that we're going to want to do once we have our build pack added is we're going to want to run this command that says git push Heroku master. Okay, this is going to push our master branch up to our remote Heroku location that we added. So we'll go ahead and we'll type git push Heroku master. And you can see that the moment of truth ended up being fairly disappointing, and it's telling me I got an error right here. Okay, and this is saying failed to push some refs to the remote location. And that's because it says ref spec master does not match anything. Okay, so if you did a quick Google search, you could quickly find what the issue is here. The issue being that the current branch that I'm on, if I type git branch, is main. So when we type the command git push Heroku master, we're trying to push a master branch, but we're on the main branch right here. And the reason our branch is called main is because I copied the GitHub snippet for creating a local Git repository, and they end up changing your branch to main. So this isn't a very hard fix. You could either rename your branch right here, or you could just change the command to match whatever branch that you're on. So since the branch I'm on is main, which is highlighted in green right here, I would just type git push Heroku main. And one final thing I want to note before I enter this command is that for some reason I had a yarn lock and also a package JSON lock from within my project, and that also caused it to break. So just make sure that your project is either only using yarn or only using NPM, okay? Because that will also cause some failures when you're trying to deploy this thing. Okay, so the moment of truth has arrived. Let's go ahead and enter this command. And you can see that the build pack is getting to work with deploying our application. All right, so I'll give this a moment to do its thing, and then we'll come back and check on it when it's done. All right, guys, so it's all finished doing its deployment process, and what we can do right now is just test that this is working by typing in the command Heroku open. Okay, and the moment of truth is here. Let's go ahead and press enter. And voila, we have our application live on the internet. And you can see that they gave us a free domain name of whatever we named our application, which ends in .herokuapp.com. All right, good stuff. What a glorious accomplishment we've done today. So from here, what you can do is you can go onto your Heroku dashboard and you can click on your application and browse through the configuration options to see what you can apply to your newly deployed application. You can add a domain name, you can configure your SSL settings, and much, much more. They also have paid tiers that you can opt into, which are going to be faster and more responsive than the free deployment tiers that we're using. But at this point, you should give yourself a pat on the back, because now you have the ability to create an application and to get it up live on the internet for the world to see. So whether you're doing some freelancing, or you're just learning, or you're trying to impress potential employers by showcasing your skills, you are in a pretty good spot to do all three of those things. Okay guys, so that's all for this video. I hope it was helpful, and thanks for watching.